Good morning. I'm Tina. This is To the Inner Wild. Thanks for stopping by. It is 8 a.m. I'm going to do a quick reading. I was going to start getting ready, but I think I'm just going to kind of skim it down to just the basics of what to get ready. I did like a reading real quick on the energy that I talked about yesterday, the favorable one anyway. And it just looks like it's a hard day right now for that person. So so anyway, we're going to do one for those, just hitting the harder times at the moment. And just some like key points today. When you talk about like the flavor of like a certain drink, they talk about like the notes or whatever, like the highlights of it. So that's what we're like trying to gather today. Like if we're to map out the day or even the rest of the week, which I feel like is pretty intense for the next couple of weeks at bare minimum, just how striking it is with obligations, that we're going to condense it to like a post-it note version, a legend, a key of, shortcut, just kind of mentally understanding things in code so that it's easier to place and gain our bearings. And that way we're able to recalibrate almost instantaneously with whatever like comes at us. And I think that's just important for the day, considering what I saw in the cards. Just consider this like a friend to friend type of thing. This is just something that it's just, well, I feel like that on a Wednesday. We're halfway through, and I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. It's just like, deserve to have a better day, and let's see how to make the most out of it. So angels of light and love, I call you in to direct and protect these messages, as well as the recipients and your messenger. And let me go ahead and just burn a little bit of sage. I was visiting like consecutive readings just to remind myself, because things move so quickly, and gosh, everything started drawing together, like connecting the dots. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this or that. How everyone's like playing a role in this like massive grand simulation. And by no means is it fake. It's they're like collective case studies. That's what it feels like, in which like when we're engaging in reformation, that we're recreating these worlds, to take accountability for what needs to be removed and dismantled in order to rebuild again. So all right, let's see, what is the message? Three of Swords in reverse. That landed in my lap. With that kind of word tongue twister thing, I almost said lasted. So maybe it has been lasted within our lap for like so long. So it's time to look at it in a way that is more tangible. Like if we're not completely out of disappointment, despair, and mainly heartbreak, this roots from a loss, and Sorry, there is an alarm thing. Give me a second. Okay. Ultimately, a dismantling that was kind of long overdue. I'd say it hurts more the parting when you have a longer tenure with a certain commitment. And so oftentimes that happens without any regard to how you feel about it. So there's a sense of it's not just brute force, but the feels that goes with it. So that may have lasted on our lap for a while, and it's time to gain perspective. If we're not completely out of the, haven't gone through the absolute thick of it, or like exited the forest, that we're visualizing what that's like. I'm getting like the Beach Boys, wouldn't it be nice? And that carries a whole different ambiance, like a totally different vibe. Yeah. So, there's that. What else do we want to say about this? Because remember when we were on TikTok, or like when I carried it over to YouTube, we were talking about how it bubbles, and how there's a certain amount of cohesion, especially when you're closer knit to a soul family. And so whatever you're undergoing is very much energetically connected to another relationship. So whether or not you realize it. So for this, it's about like bursting that bubble. Hold on real quick. So it's about bursting that bubble. It's like do it yourself type of day. Yeah. It might create a mess because when you pop bubbles, of course it like it doesn't isolate to one area. It affects like in almost its response is it affects the diameter of things, right? But this is the cleansing effect because of the solution that makes up the bubble. So it's an easy clean. That's what they're saying. So yeah. Okay. So this is good because for me, like I don't feel my like equilibrium involves the Three of Swords. Like I have to like reach deep into like do a deep dive and really start to engage in talking about it and thinking about it in order to realize that it's there, that it exists beneath the surface. But with this, it's the acceptance of the reality because we've already been there. To know that that exists and just to get ahead of the game, the like psychological trips bound to that, linked to that, and cut yourself some slack and just like pop that bubble and just like, okay, so reality, okay, what does that mean for me when I like kind of visualize that and engage in that? So it's beneath the surface. I know it exists, and I just need to carry through my day. Not just carry through it, like not just get through it as though there's already an implication of baggage or something that's overwhelming or cumbersome, but we're thinking of our blessings, like right here, right now, this opportunity to learn from, to grow from, that we're out of it, but we're not like out of it, you know, and like we're not checked out. So that's the whole idea of it, to check in with yourself, and that's just, you know, how to be present. When you're a leader, you have to be very self-managed and self-motivated. So let's be present. Let's check in with ourselves on a more intimate level. And so I think that's important. Like, look at our objectives and remind ourselves of what makes us happy. Remembering those parts of, like, the hearts without all of the swords, you know, punctured through. Yeah, I feel like that. Like, clean slated, what that looks like, all mended. And, yeah. Because, you know, like, I think the whole vibe of liking, having this crush, isn't really the idea of it. There's something mysterious behind it. I can't quite put my finger on it right now, and it's not meant to be, like, agonized over, because the feelings are very, like, pure, and very much, like, in union with the happiness of, like, a child, without it being immature. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's something very solid in all of that, and how it's a natural incentive to be like, oh, well, you know, I have that, you know, that to smile upon, to, like, be happy about. Meanwhile, there's other things, but that is a natural, like, instantaneous feel good. And, you know, I question it, and you know, like, I put it under the spotlight and do this, like, little interrogation thing, like, are you somehow linked to my ego, sir? Or, you know, are you just a shiny object? Yeah. And at some point you have to stop doing that. I realized that I had to stop doing that because of the effects of, like, understanding how relationships work on a one-to-one level, at any level, you know, within any context. And the more you build accusations or build a tone of like an inquisition, the more you are, like, kind of drawing in that energy, like that energetic cord. Like, that's what you're trying to derive from a subject that is, if anything, neutral or just new. So you have to treat it, like, with its due justice, which is give it a fair chance to exist and unfold accordingly. So anyway, I think the type of attention that we give it is also a huge factor in the shiny object effect. Like, you know, so what else, angels? Anything else? Okay. This is the Knight of Coins in reverse. We get this a lot. Nowadays. Let's go ahead and just read it from the book, okay? See what they have to say about it. Because the way I interpret it is very cut and dry. But, like, it's upon the return, like the delivery and then coming back. That's the recent, like, variation. Knight of Coins in reverse. Carelessness, laziness, lack of motivation, stagnation, work problems, possible deceit. So I learned, I told you in the previous reading that I've learned, like self-taught myself. I'd say, other readers have done this before too, and, I caught on. But as far as, elaborating upon these things, teaching, it's important to teach ourselves how to recoil when we're reading between the lines, that we're not just on intake with data, but adding perspective to it, So why does that exist? Carelessness, laziness, lack of motivation, stagnation, like how to rectify that. So I suppose that knights are employed for a certain journey, a certain obligation. So once that is that directive is delivered, it's like, okay, so what's my purpose now? And so there's a lack of motivation because they're always the go-to doers. And so after, delivering the message, extending an investment, and this is the one that's the most like time-consuming one, that like, what is it? What should I do now? So it's raising the question, what do I do next after envisioning these things, right? Because it's, when we just look at that, the context of it, it's just like floating, like, oh, that's nice, okay, and so we have Nine of Cups pronounced, the Emperor pronounced, Six of Swords pronounced, and then the intentions portion with the Creator. And we have this card reappearing as an author, and realizing that the power of the author is to recognize the audience as co-creators. And when you do that, you automatically level up your game. Especially with the Emperor appearing here, we have Spirit's backing. When we're acting within our higher selves, we're empowering the divinity, our ability to channel the divine, to ground that, because the intentions are there. It's like one great big handshake with the universe in total, because the energy that we put out there is also timeless. So you want to put out your best. That exposure is affecting other life forms, and so you want it to be a mover, not just a shaker. You want it to be, I think that's so. Find the calmer waters within that rationale. Extend your reach when you're building, okay, based on intention. So you're standing up on what you've already created as well, and you're building further. You're building from the ground up, or per what you've already built too. So it's not from scratch. It's not completely from scratch, and you'll naturally find like pronounced happiness within this endeavor. So, anything else, angels of love and light? Oh my gosh, that's a lot. I'm just going to get this one, which is Four of Wands. That's excellent. This is self-actualization. It's a realization of self-worth and coming through. Like, this is, how do I say it? Like, you know yourself so well, and it's coming to appreciate yourself more, so that when you're engaged in even battle, that it's almost like live action role play. It's almost like playtime, elevated playtime. Most definitely. So it's building a home, like foundations, a safe place to be yourself, and this is the absolute go ahead, the green light from spirit that like you are fully capable of manifesting greatness on an exponential level, because this is not just you, this is you're part of a community, so it's uplifting for the y'all. Like, what more could you want or have? You have the real estate, you have the resources, and you have the correct attitude. So that's excellent. So it's like a massive channel from like to the divine. You see like how it expands further. Yeah, most definitely. So for me, what I'm looking at right now, what I'm seeing is that this is like a pencil point. You know, this is like an artist with their like charcoal or whatever, their pen, and it's writing, like it's actively writing through us, through this cohesion, through this collab. That's excellent. Okay, I'm going to look at the bottom of the deck now. Four of Coins, ownership. We have Master number 44 featured here. And being that the Emperor is pronounced, we're also looking at that as, you know, a sequence of 444, but definitely Master number 44 here. What else do we want to say? So the overall vibe of this, like in total, is calls to the Strength card, if not Justice, because they're, you know, they interchange on numerology number 8. So there's something about yeah, I feel like that. Okay, so definitely accountability. Within its like most lighthearted aspect, that it doesn't just fall in your lap, but you are an integral piece. The tone setter, the trend setter for the day. And that's excellent. Okay, so next up, anagrams. 8:23 on the clock. We have I, and it fell on the author card and the 6 of Swords. QOXRFIEEIOPBENET. So we have a name here: Ben, Rob, Free, Pet, Ty, BF for best friend. Next. So what we're looking at is like, what's next? What's the next step? Because we're it's like liftoff. Like once we get one foot in the door, like in the new arena, setting the tone, and then it's liftoff with the other foot to the next step. So it's not as we're moving, we're looking also at the next step. It's being present, but engaging in the anticipation of what's immediately upcoming. So we have rope here. Let me see here. How do we do this? Rope. And then reef. I think it's it helps reefs are a natural like ecosystem within like the intuitive bodies. That it acts as a natural home, protective force, and how do I say it? Manages the frequency of the water. You know, like because we're looking at the undercurrents and how each living form, including foundations, affect the impact of the upcoming impacts based on what we're looking at, like the incoming, the undercurrents. So it manages what goes on above the surface, like what we can visually see. So I feel like reef is important here. As far as building foundations, it's like a root system that manages like any anticipated turbulence. Yeah, I feel like that most definitely. And rope, how it's a strong tie to bind and to connect. Okay. What else here? Okay. Gosh, there's so many letters that are left. Fob. So and there's so many acronyms with tied to that. But like a key fob, you know, thinking like like a new school key to unlock like certain systems. That's what I feel like. B, so we have beehive mentality, and that's part of the unlocking system. And then EQ for emotional intelligence. And then we have 3 eyes. Some are not open to all, like, I don't know why. Like, okay, let me show you. So, some of us are looking at, you know, our day without these steps. Like, hold on. Got a little shuffled here. Like that. Okay. But what we're doing here is shifting that. So we're creating foundations along the horizon. With the horizon in mind. Okay. But it's also a pause, you know. Dot, dot, dot. A necessary pause. So I think that's it. Maybe that also pertaining to the workday, it's like breakfast, lunch, dinner, like the rule of thirds, in divvying up our day. I think that is it for now. Yeah. So, thanks very much for joining. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all later, and I hope that helped. Okay, bye for now.